I am Shane Cashman. I'm joined by Alex.
How's it going, Shane? Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's getting to be spooky season.
Yes, it is. And it's the first day of fall.
It is.
And it's very dreary outside.
I love it.
We went to the pumpkin patch today. We didn't get pumpkins yet, but you know.
You just went to visit pumpkins?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We
say a little prayer, see if they're doing all right.
We'll be back.
Actually, they did say that the deer were eating all the pumpkins. So
really?
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Oh, man. It's a curse.
Yeah.
The deer plague. I saw some crows and some vultures on the way in.
Always.
That's my happy place.
Just a staple.
Any housekeeping things we got?
No, things seem to be all right.
You're good?
I know that one of our coworkers, we talked about this last week, had dug up some graves that were on the property.
That's right.
And there was one, it was really sad. It said it was like 5-day-old baby that they buried, and it said
sad.
Our baby.
Yeah.
Really sad.
I hate seeing graves like that.
Yeah.
I was,
And 1888.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was maybe I shouldn't.
Oh yeah. That's wild. That's wild.
Maybe it wasn't that year.
I've been working in graveyards in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, and we see a lot of baby tombstones, and it's the worst. New, old. It's the absolute worst thing. Can't imagine. But what we were seeing in those gravestones on this property, I like to think explain some of the visitations we were getting in this creepy old house.
Yeah, I feel like I was like really hot for a while, and now it's like cold in here. So it's, it could just be here hanging out with us.
I actually turned the air conditioner off.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it was.
You make me sound crazy on air.
Yeah. I had to manipulate, it's all part of the freak show. Well, I'm really excited for tonight's episode.
I am too. And please super chat us, send us your money. Don't forget to subscribe, all that good stuff.
Please. Yeah, we'll read the super chats. And today we have someone on who has been sharing stories on Twitter, and I was getting tagged in a lot of them. And I immediately was like, well, this person must be a guest on Inverted World Live. I was really interested in a lot of the stuff he was saying. And it lined up with a lot of stuff I had written for the first season, first book of Inverted World that Alex worked on when we narrated that book and put it on timcast.com about a gentleman who had been an experiencer, who had been taken away by several entities, some of which he called, the Tall Grays, and some of which he called the Palladians. So I was reading a lot of what our guests today have been saying, and it was really interesting. So I'm really excited to bring on...
I'm excited too.
Carroll Vance. Carroll, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Shane. Thank you for bringing me on. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing a lot of your stuff online, and for sharing stories you've written about your experiences on Medium. I've been reading through all of them. They're fascinating. It's kind of remarkable how much they line up with other people who I'm sure you don't even know. These are people from upstate New York who just have similar experiences. And like we were talking earlier about someone like Dr. John Mack, who spent a large part of his career interviewing people with similar experiences. And he started out as a skeptic. And the more he talked to people, it was hard for him to look away. And be like, something's happening, something remarkable, something strange, something unexplainable, something that doesn't quite fit in with the reality that we're supposed to accept is happening. So before we get into all of that, if you could just briefly tell everyone who you are, what you do, what you're up to, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. So professionally, I'm an electrical engineer. I've spent 40 years as an electrical engineer. I got 3 degrees, 2 in math, 1 in electrical engineering. Was working on a PhD in math. Born very math and physics oriented. So just huge interest in that area. And I was also, at 3 years old, I went to church. My family was Christian, and I was fascinated with these picture books that showed Jesus and him very peacefully with children around him and animals around him. And I thought, oh, wow, that is the coolest thing ever. This super peaceful person.
Right.
And so I've spent my life trying to understand who he is and how he achieved that state of mind.
Wow.
So definitely a theological interest. I was a Christian for 40 years. I dropped out of Christianity because I understood that love was kind of like the only thing in heaven or reality.
Right.
So,
And you're having these deep thoughts at the age of 3.
yeah, I would go out into my backyard and completely clear my mind, get into like a Zen state of meditation, and then just expand out into the universe as a 3-year-old. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I thought everybody did that.
Yeah. So when you're doing that at 3, are you going to your parents and saying this, or like?
Oh no, I thought everybody would do that, but by the time, as a male, by the time you get to about 6, you can't do that anymore. It's conditioned out of you.
Right.
You have to start fighting, interact.
Yeah.
It's more of a dog eat dog survival.
It's too bad, because I feel like
psychology.
that type of meditation, that type of imagination is what can connect you to the Creator and to God. There's some type of portal of communication when you're doing that society beats out of everybody. It's like they don't want you to have any communication with anything higher than yourself, because that's very bad. How dare you do that? It didn't work on me for some reason. I'm still 3 in my brain, but I think it's very important to cultivate that. So you're 3. You're having these thoughts about Jesus, and then how far after that do stranger things start happening to you? Is it well beyond that, after 3 or soon after?
Right. Being technical and kind of like being a math prodigy, math genius, I was conditioned that way. And so it was past high school, college, college, when I started, got out into, away from home and that culture. And I think I started remote viewing just spontaneously at about age 19. So it was still there. It was just kind of a latent ability.
For those who don't know, can you describe what remote viewing is?
Right. There's been a government program to find out information on our adversaries. Started back, I think it was early 70s, and they developed techniques to be able to go to a target like you're there, see things, explore around, and give the information back to the handlers, the military handlers.
Right.
And so that's the most well-known remote viewing. Inga Swan, a bunch of people have written about that.
Right. Was that the Looking Glass? I think Operation Looking Glass, perhaps?
No, I forget. There's been a lot of code names for those programs.
Yeah.
We only know a handful of the programs.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah.
When you started to remote view at that age, did you know what was going on? Did you have a sense like I know what I'm doing? Like, how did you come to that conclusion that you were remote viewing?
I had no idea. I just started doing it spontaneously on my own because I was curious. I've always been curious. I want to know how things work. And the biggest curiosity I had was, what is reality? What is Jesus talking about?
Right.
But my curiosity would bring me out into space, to see whatever I was curious about.
Wow. So, before we then jump into the places you're remote viewing, I want to stress for anyone watching who might be skeptical of remote viewing, which is fine, that, again, like you said, the government thought enough of remote viewing to have multiple projects, some of which happened around where we are in the West Virginia world, because it's outside of DC, where they could have these secret little labs, put people in rooms and harness their power to see things in other countries, hidden facts, hidden things happening here and there. It wasn't like all woo-woo. They were like, we think we can do something with this, and we're going to maybe enhance it with psychotropics, I believe some of them were taking. Some of this is like a branch off stuff like MK Ultra. And they would sit there and try to find out. I even think the Men Who Stared at Goats might be closely associated with this project. I think they were trying to stop a goat's heart, or make a goat's heart explode even, with the use of their mind. They're doing all of these things. So it sounds possibly wild to many, and as it should, because it kind of breaks the idea of the reality that we're in right now. But even our wonderful government is out there looking to remote view. So then back to you now, and when you said you're 18 or 19, where are you going, and how are you experiencing this and then learning to harness this?
Well, being mathematical and science oriented, I started studying statistics so I could do proper scientific verification of it, right? So I would remote view my test scores and see how accurate I was. So at the start, you have to learn to calibrate yourself, right? You can't just go, oh, I'm going to go remote view. Well, okay, people can do that. And then they say, well, okay, I got a hit here. I was wrong here, right? But what is the quality of the information? What is the variability on your answers? There's answers and then there's what you see. And I was getting pretty accurate. I was like, on my test scores, I could predict 80% of them.
Wow.
So that was just the start.
And then where does it go after that? Once you realize you're getting 80% of that, are you now like testing yourself and trying to go anywhere?
I started testing myself. I just did it in college just to calibrate myself. We do that in statistics a lot. Human perception's so variable. You try to perceive something and then you get the right answer. You see how far off you are. It's accuracy testing, quality of information testing. Anyway, after college, 5 years, I started work as an electrical engineer. And so that was full time. I had no time to do that anymore.
Right.
So it was a period of about 20 years before I really got back into it.
Huh. Did you know what to call it when it was happening in the beginning?
No, I had no idea.
Interesting. What was it? What was it that made you realize what you were doing? Did you come across a book or talk to someone else who had similar experience?
No. That's not back in the late 70s. The government programs weren't out. Nobody knew about them. There were no books on remote viewing. There's a reason why I was doing this. Like when I was 3, I was expanding out into the universe, right?
Right.
I have past lives doing this,
right,
going back to 30,000 years. And I can tell you a little bit about that.
Well, yeah.
Because we affected the future in weird ways.
Yeah, that's oddly a good segue to where we should go, even though it's a 30,000 year skip backwards.
Right.
But when you're born,
Atlantis.
Right. When you're born, you're 3, you're 19, you're experiencing these things. Is your idea of this ability of the remote viewing and other things you're going to experience later on, is that something that's like seeping through from the past life that you had before? Or is it something else that has come to you?
Yes, it seeps through from past lives because eventually I started jumping into those past lives by locating into them. Whoa. And future lives as well. Both past and future lead back into now in very strange ways.
So we talked about when you were born in this world, in this time. So then let's jump back to the furthest that you think you can remember in terms of your past lives, and where are we? When is that? And how do you think of that? Because some people watching might say, "Well, that's just imagination. That's just a dream." Stuff like that. Like, how do you differentiate that, and how are you confident about all that stuff?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. As experiencers, we question our sanity all the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And an experiencer who isn't questioning that, I wouldn't listen to. So I'm jumping back 30,000 years. This is the experience of source that I had. It happened like 30,000 years ago in Atlantis, and it's more real than being here. So in Atlantis times, humans had better psi abilities, right? And as part of that, you experience the world in a much greater capacity. It's like much larger bandwidth. Time is very different. It's like a near-death experience almost.
Right.
So you're able to kind of like go all over time and space as a natural psi ability of the Atlanteans. I call it Humanity 2.0, and many people have these memories of this Humanity 2.0. And by the way, in remote future, that's where we're heading. Wow. In 2200, 2700, those abilities come back to us. Anyway, getting back to Atlantis, this is the experience of source that I wrote about. And I didn't put it in there, Atlantis, in my write-up. It just seemed too weird. So I'm dreaming one night, and all of a sudden, I'm like in this beautiful spot in Atlantis. It's like being in Colorado above timberline. Do a lot of backpacking and 14,000 foot mountain climbing. And it was just this beautiful alpine field, and there's mountains all around. And all of a sudden, I just like appear there instantly, coming out of sleep. And I'm like hyper aware of everything with this hyper psi ability. And there's this woman in front of me, and she's about 14 feet away, and she's looking right in my eyes and gently smiling. And then she's telepathic with me. And I'm like, I never knew what telepathy was until that moment. And the first thing she communicates with me is, I know everything about you.
Wow.
It's like, whoa.
And you're just hearing that. And you're just hearing that in your mind.
It was in my head, right?
Wow.
Just like the abductees here thing.
Right.
So I'm like, wow, where am I? This is like an expanded version of being a human.
Are you feeling nature? Are you feeling like, do you have sensation outside of just the mind stuff?
It's like being there.
Huh.
So that's a great question. Like I'm sensing everything around me. That humanity 2.0 is very harmonious with nature. It's like Native Americans. And I notice like there's no wind and I can't feel the sun. So, I backpack a lot. When you're at 13,000, 14,000 feet, the sun is blaring down on you. You feel it on every inch of your skin. And I'm noticing this, just hyper aware of everything around me. It's like being there. It's more real than it is being here right now.